Hey everybody, how's it going? Hopefully y'all are having a great day today. In today's video, I wanted to discuss the three primary resources that we as humans in today's society exchange on a day-to-day basis. And those three resources are time, money, and energy. Along with defining these, I want to also discuss some of the play between these categories, and hopefully I inspire you guys to maybe think of some new ways that these interact with each other. And if you do, feel free to leave them in the comment section down below. But without further ado, let's get into it. Now, time is a very straightforward but interesting resource that we expend on a day-to-day basis. It's the one resource that you can't actually generate more of, right? You can artificially increase the amount of time that you have by expending other variables, but you can't inherently get more time. There isn't a time seller that can give you time. So in that regard, it's one of the most valuable resources, which you'll hear that quoted across all different industries, right? You know, you think about finance where people say time is your most valuable resource because compounding interest, right? Or, you know, people who are saying like, oh, time is money, right? So time is very unique, but also very limited. So make sure that you understand this as you start to spend your time resource. The next resource we'll get into is money. Now, money is a resource that is abundantly available, and you do have the opportunity to gain more money through other activities, right? So you do have a direct influence on how much money you are receiving, and that could be through use of improving yourself from your career standpoint. This could be getting side jobs. This could be passive income. There's a lot of different ways that you can amass certain amounts of money, right? Now, money, while incredibly abundant if you have means of which to like obtain it, actually really doesn't do a whole lot by itself, right? But money is a conversion rate that you can use to either gain more time back or gain more energy, right? Now, what do I mean by this? Let's say you're somebody who has cooked every single meal by yourself, right? You always cook your dinners, you always cook your lunches, what have you. Each time you cook, you clean, it takes about an hour. It takes about maybe 2 hours sometimes for a bigger dinner, right? What money allows you to do is money allows you to go out and buy other people's time as a resource, right? Or other people's energy as a resource so that you don't have to expend it, right? So instead of me cooking dinner, cleaning all of the dishes and everything, I could go to a restaurant. I would pay a premium on the food that I'm actually getting, but I am buying both food and time when I transact like this, right? Other things that you can do are maybe like saving you time on commuting, right? Like if your drive into wherever it is that you work takes a long time, but public transport like a train or something like that is actually quicker. You know, you can exchange your money for time, and also you exchange it for not wearing down your personal asset like your car, right? So very unique in that instance where you spend time to get money, but money itself doesn't really do anything within the category, but it is very helpful in buying you either more time or more energy, right? And how does it buy you more energy? Well, there's this concept of production capacity, right? Which is an individual's ability to produce things, right? So at the beginning of the day, you could think about your production capacity as like 100%. And all of the things that you do throughout the day, you go to work, you make lunches. If you have kids, you take care of the kids, you take them to practice, whatever. By the end of the day, your production capacity is quite low, right? You don't really have a whole lot of energy to give much more, right? However, by spending money, you might be able to, let's say, go get a massage. You might be able to pay for a trip to go somewhere and emotionally recharge your production capacity, right? So that's an instance where money by itself can't really do much for you, but it can buy you a replenishment of your energy resource, right? That's a perfect segue into the final category, which is our energy, or what I'll synonymously say, our production capacity, right? The 7 habits of highly effective people go into this concept of production and production capacity, how in today's society, we're very focused on production, but not necessarily focused on protecting our production capacity, right? If you think about the traditional, like young worker in the workforce, it's working 10, 12-hour days, just grinding, right? Like pumping out as much production as you could possibly do without really giving much care to their own personal production capacity, right? Briefly go over it. It's the goose that lays the golden egg, right? The goose lays one golden egg every single day. And the farmer who owns the goose is amazed and is so happy with the one egg per day initially. However, as time goes on, he started to get a little bit more impatient, and soon he started to, egg the goose on, or he started to kind of shake the goose, or just really try and force more production out of the goose, more than one gold egg per day. Until eventually the farmer got impatient and cut open the goose, and he found inside nothing, right? And now, because he was so hyper fixated on how much production this goose was giving, but giving no attention to any sort of production capacity of the goose, he has now effectively eliminated his surefire source of income, right? And we can kind of do that ourselves when we don't protect our energy, right? Now, as discussed prior, money can kind of buy you a replenishment of energy, or kind of a recharge, if you will. But energy itself is, I would say, in between the two. Not as rare of a resource as time, but also not as plentiful as money, right? So that's kind of the explanation between those. So that's really the definition between all three of those. Now let's point out some things that are present when these play together, right? We mentioned it a little bit before, but spending money can help increase your time. And this kind of bleeds into this concept of lifestyle creep, or, lifestyle inflation, as some people call it, where you're starting to spend more and more money as you gain more and more money, right? Because as we covered, money by itself is not particularly valuable, but money within the context of buying you back your time or replenishing your energy is actually very valuable, right? And once you start to spend more and more and more in those categories, you get what's called lifestyle inflation, or a little bit of lifestyle creep. Now, this lifestyle creep isn't necessarily limited to the money, right? A lot of people, when they start going out to eat and buying food, and they're forced to cut back on that spending, really, yes, they do feel it from a quality of food, maybe, right? Like restaurant food's always really good, really tasty. I fall victim to that all the time, right? But really what is a pain is going back to a lifestyle where they have less time, right? So in essence, their lifestyle creep happened both financially and from a time perspective, right? They have now filled whatever time they would have been cooking with other activities, right? Maybe it's, they go out to eat and then they're able to watch a TV show, or they go out to eat and they're able to spend more time with their kids, right? But when you don't do that and you are forced to now spend time where you were spending money, people don't really like that, right? It's a tough adjustment to make. So that's an example of how lifestyle creep can both affect your money and time, right? It can also kind of affect your energy, right? I mean, at the end of the day, do you have the energy to cook a very healthy square meal with, 1/2 vegetable, 1/4 lean meat, 1/4 healthy carb? Probably not, right? You don't really have the energy to cook and clean. So, you might find yourself eating less, or you might find yourself eating worse foods for you that are just easier to make, that save you time. So this lifestyle creep can now start to happen in energy as well, right? So another thing to point out is that energy and time tend to be our main resource when transacting with friends and family, right? I mean, there are instances where people are giving their family money. However, oftentimes what you're doing is you're giving people your energy, right? So, a family member calls, they're distressed, they don't really know what to do, and they lean on you for a conversation. That will take your time and it will take your energy. So it's a resource that you have to be aware multiple areas of your life are desiring, right? Are, wanting from you, right? At work, your work wants 8 hours of your day or more, but they're willing to actually exchange you money for that time, right? However, your family doesn't really give you any sort of compensation per se when it comes to spending your time or spending your energy, right? So in this category, it's kind of hard because you feel this obligation to your family to give them your time and energy. But be careful with this, right? Obviously, you always want to help people out whenever you can, but if you're at limited capacity and then on top of that, you have to also give your energy and time to somebody else, it can be quite draining and it can start to affect other areas of your life. So not saying cut it off cold turkey, but just be aware of how much time and energy resource you're spending on friends and family, right? Because this is a very limited resource that could end up costing you personally more money, right? Take 2 hours on the phone with whoever the family or friend member is. Now you don't have time to cook. Now you have to go out to eat, right? So them using your time effectively made you spend money to gain back some time in your afternoon or gain back some time on a weekend or whatever the case is, right? So this is an example of how transacting with friends and family and taking predominantly time and energy can also end up costing you money because you need to buy back the time that you gave to somebody else in order for your life to kind of be back to normal, right? And one other thing I'd like to add is throughout the different phases of your life, categorically speaking, you'll have more of one resource over the other, right? So when you're young, you tend to have a lot of time, but not a lot of money, right? So a lot of younger people are willing to exchange their time for less amounts of money. This is seen a lot with like entry-level jobs, with like new hires. They're willing to accept a lower hourly pay or a lower annual salary in exchange for their time. However, as time goes on and you're able to be more efficient with your time, people are willing to spend more money, right? Because the value that the company is getting by buying your time at a higher rate is they're getting more production, right? So as time goes on, you start to see this shift where you now have not really that much time, right? Like you're starting to have a family, you're starting to have things you want to do outside of work. So time is becoming a lot more valuable, but money is starting to accrue and money is starting to mean a little bit less to you, right? Or you're at least having more than you did when you were, first starting out, right? So you'll notice a priority shift where some people who are older might tend to actually prefer to spend the money that they have accrued over the years to get back their time, to get back their energy, right? Which is why it's so important that you start saving money early on when you're, exchanging all of your time for money, regardless of how much you're getting back from it. You want to make sure that you're saving as much as you can so that when you hit that phase where you inevitably wish you had more time and you need to start buying it back from other people, you have enough cash resource to do so, right? And also energy throughout life is constantly fluctuating. I don't know if there's a particularly accurate thing to say about a categorical energy level at each age group, but more often than not, money and energy money and time actually kind of work with that shift where excess of time, a lack of excess of money early on, and then it shifts as you kind of go through life. So anyways, I really hope this video helped everyone. Very basic examples that I gave. I'm sure you all will be able to come up with a lot more playing between these 3 different resources, and I hope you take the time to put it down in the comment section. It'd really mean a lot. But without anything else to say, I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I'll see you on the next video.